Hello, you guys. Good afternoon. I hope you all are having a great Thursday. I am on my way to go pick up my daughter right now because she is going to go with me to the surgical center in order for me to have this procedure done. But I wanted to come and talk to you guys before I go in and have this procedure. I don't have to be there till 2:45, so I got plenty of time. I'm just on my way to go get her because I can't eat, y'all. I am starving and I cannot eat nothing. So by me being out, this is like trying to get my mind off of that. That's trying to get my mind away from that. So I got plenty of time to get to the surgery center. So I wanted to come and talk to you guys really quick. Hey Tiz, hey Boo. I wanted to come talk to you guys real quick. So listen, y'all, I am coming with an announcement. I was wrong. I was 100% wrong on one thing, right? And the one thing I was 100% wrong on is that Bo Brindley was going to put that motion in, right? I was wrong about that. Now I'm standing my ground about everything else I had to say, but I was wrong about not thinking that he wasn't going into the motion. I happen to think it would have been the smarter thing to do to not submit anything, but he did submit something. And so this morning when I got up, I listened to Angie. Angie read the motion from the defense last night, and I am making a request that she read the one from the prosecution, please, because I think that's fair, right? I think that's fair. We want the legal analysis on the prosecution's motion as well. Okay, so I think that's fair, right? But I listened to her read it, and then Lady D read it, and so I went over to listen to Lady D read it because listen, I just like Lady D. Like I said, I think she is the cute as a button. I like when Lady D is reading this stuff because she give her raw, uncut opinion. Now, Angie, from a legal perspective, was impressed by at least the language of the brief. I'm gonna say that. I think hopefully Angie, I'm saying this right if you hear this, and you can confirm if I'm wrong then, but she was kind of impressed with the language of the brief, and she explained why, and I can agree that if all of this stuff was right in theory, the language of the brief kind of, was okay, right? Might be okay, right? I also She also, however, did speak though to the fact that it would be best to submit the evidence that you suggest that you have, because the judge can make a ruling without having to bring you back into court to discuss any of this. And so when you file these briefs, when you make a motion and you file these briefing responses, you want to incorporate everything possible to get what you're asking for. And this is what this motion and all of these briefs and responses have lacked in throughout this whole process, is those things, right? And last night we identified that based on the government's response, well, brief, that um, there is only one piece of evidence that seems like it may have been submitted, and that was a un um I'm trying to think of the daggone word. I can't think of it. The affidavit that was not basically like a unsworn affidavit. That is possibly the only piece of evidence, right? That we hear referenced now in the motion. Now, initially, when the motion was entered, it was all of these allegations hurled out. It was the Aryan Brotherhood. It was Larry took somebody to California, to somebody's to California, and he was waterboarding one of them. And then there was another accusation that somebody had done something to Rashona Landfast's daddy. This was all in the original motions that were being submitted. But now it looks like we are down to one thing. And if I'm wrong, the legal mind can let me know. If I'm wrong, it seems like we're down to only one thing, because it seems like that this motion, when it is discussing the fact that this is a structural error, that it is basing it upon this interference by Mondi, right? And based off of how it was explained last night, I listened to it this morning, but it's a structural error that is being suggested by the defense that this is hinging on Mondi and what Mondi did, his behaviors, his actions, all of these things, right? And so, like I said, the only thing we have from Mondi is this unsworn affidavit so far. But I want to interject something that I think is critical and crucial and important. And I would really like for people to honestly talk about this and not talk about it in a deceitful way. I would really like to hear an honest opinion about this. So, the brief that was submitted by the defense um, was wait, hold on one second. Okay, you guys, I don't listen. I don't know what's going on. I didn't have to switch or change of plans, everything. That's why I don't like the way this surgery center did this because I needed to know way in advance so that I could arrange uh somebody. Shit. I'm sorry, you guys, y'all. I'm glad I left in enough time because this shit is stupid. Um. All right, wait a minute. Let me make sure I'm on the right track. Hold on, you guys. Okay. Hold on, you guys. I just gotta get over and get out of here where I'm at because this was stupid. Um, so I would really like really sincere, honest input, not no fucking doctored up, lied up ass shit, right? So the defense is alleging that Mondi was working as I guess, as a part of the prosecution, right? That's what I'm taking from what I heard this morning. That he was working as part of the prosecution, right? However, the prosecutors are saying that they have never advised Mondi to do anything, that they never received anything that Mondi is alleging in the affidavit, and they state that the affidavit does not even support that the prosecution told Mondi to do anything, and that the prosecution received anything from Mondi, right? This was the government's brief before they submitted theirs before the defense. So they didn't know which angle the defense was going to come at. They just submitted saying, listen, we never had no communications with this man telling this man to go take nothing from R. Kelly. We never got nothing from this man of what he's alleging that he took from R. Kelly. And if he did, that's what you need to produce. You need to produce those things. Those things need to be part of the evidence, right? But this is what I want to get people's opinion on. It is being publicly declared by Mondi that he was trusted by R. Kelly. It is raining here, y'all. I'm sorry. It's a lot going on. Um, it is being publicly declared by Mondi that he was trusted by R. Kelly. Trusted to the point where R. Kelly allowed Mondi to access his communication. The brief that Bo Brindley filed suggests that based on the interference from the government by using Mondi as an informant, that this could have possibly caused a structural error because it could have disabled the defendant from wanting to actively participate in his own defense for fear that his communications were being breached by the government, right? Now, we know that the BOP event actually took place, right? So I could see if they used, this is just my thinking. Oh my God. Oh my God. Jesus Christ, y'all. So I could see if, based off of the BOP, and then R. Kelly having some apprehension about wanting to communicate back and forth in any kind of way, because he finds out at the end of the New York trial, I believe this is the timeline, he finds out at the end of the New York trial that his communications were being briefed, to my understanding. I mean, were being breached, to my understanding. So if R. Kelly would have had some type of paranoia about participating actively in his own defense, I would think that it would stem from the situation that happened with the BOP, not the situation that took place with Mondi. And the reason that I'm saying this is because then something critical happens with this communications with Mondi and him giving Mondi access to his own personal communications, right? When it is stated by Mondi in some of these interviews that he was both R. Kelly's roommate before he left Chicago. I mean, while he was at Chicago the first time, and then when he came back. And I remember that being stated because I remember it being spoken. Um, Hold on one second, y'all. Okay, you guys, I'm back. I'm sorry. It's a whole bunch of confusion going on right now. So I'm sorry. I should have waited until after I had this procedure done to come on here with you guys. But I wanted to get this off before the procedure because hopefully it'll be some responses after it. Somebody will respond or somebody will have something to say about what I'm asking. So follow me, okay? So we have the known fact that somehow R. Kelly's communications were breached by a BOP officer, right? And that was looked into by Jennifer Bongine. It was confirmed that that actually took place. What we all expect, or I guess we all assume, is that there was no breach of attorney-client privilege information with that breach. And so I guess that's why such a claim could not be entered on the BOP officer. Because if that was the case, then you would have been able to enter a similar style document, a similar style motion on the BOP officer. You wouldn't need Mondi, right? You would be able to use it on the BOP officer and say, based on the fact that the defendant's attorney-client privilege information was breached by the BOP officer, this made him actively not want to participate in his own defense because he couldn't trust his own communications. This was an interference with attorney-client privilege, attorney-client relationship, and as a result, he should be given a new trial, right? That's how I would expect the motion to go if we place the BOP officer in this place. However, Mondi is the one who was placed in this place. And the defense wants to make Mondi an agent of the government, right? But this is the problem. So Cal's experiences this breach by the BOP officer. This could have possibly given him reasonable feeling to feel like that he didn't want to communicate through any of these systems anymore because he didn't trust anything. If he had that type of paranoia as a result of what the BOP officer had done to breach his communications, then when he went back to Chicago to go stand trial in Chicago, he would have been skeptical of Mondi and not want to give Mondi access to his personal information because he would not have been able to trust anyone. That is what is being alleged, that the defendant could not participate in his own defense after his information was knowingly breached. He would not have been able to trust Mondi. But Mondi is on these public platforms saying that he both was a trusted confidant by RSK from the first time he went into the MCC in Chicago, and then when he went back to stand trial in Chicago. He's saying that he was the roommate both times, which was an unusual thing to occur. And that because R. Kelly could not read, that he was trusted in order to read his communications for him. Something that these inmates are advised not to do. They are advised not to share any of this information. And so if Kels came back to Chicago with the level of paranoia that made him not even want to communicate over these systems because he was afraid that his information could be breached because of what possibly happened as a result of the BOP officer, that might be something that I could see. Okay, that might be possible, right? Hopefully y'all are following me and I'm not losing anybody, okay? But they are alleging that he went back to the Chicago prison, the Chicago jail, to await to stand trial in Chicago. And after finding out what happened to his information being breached by the BOP officer, he then again continues to resume allowing another inmate to access his communications, knowing that that information should not be given out. And so is this behavior consistent with someone who is paranoid about participating in their own defense? That is my question. Because it would seem like if you developed a paranoia because you believe that the government is having someone watch you, if you believe that the government is somehow trying to get access to what your strategy, your legal strategy is, then you would not share anything with anyone, and which you are advised by your own legal counsel not to do. You are advised by the judges. I heard in several cases where they denied clients to be able, high profile clients especially, to be able to take anything of theirs back to the cell for fear that something might be confiscated or seen by a roommate, right? But the fact that Kels allowed his roommate to access his personal communications is saying that he was okay. I think this is what I'm trying to get down to. If the prosecution in some kind of way did use Mondi, and Mondi did do what he claimed that he did, and they did use Mondi, it was based off of R. Kelly's trust of Mondi that Mondi would have had access to all of this information. He was allowing Mondi to read his communications to him. This is what we're being told on these public platforms. This is what is going across the airwaves. He didn't have to necessarily go in and sneak to get anything because he had access by the defendant because of the defendant's inability to be able to, I guess, read. So if the government wanted to make a case for why they would have used Mondi by means of being an informant, it still would have been with the consent of the defendant because the defendant was given the Mondi access to his personal communications, which may have included some of his legal communications. And I believe that the government can make a case for that. That's how it was attained, not the way that the defense suggests. So if the government had done something and used some information that they had gotten from Mondi, I believe that that is the route that they would probably try to go in order to try to defend their use of any information that they possibly could have got from Mondi. And we just going with this theory. I don't believe Mondi did none of this. right? But we're going to just go with this idea that if the government had used Mondi in any way, there is still a way that they could probably defend their use of Mondi by not saying that the defendant willfully gave him access to his personal communications that potentially could have included some of his attorney-client privilege information. And that is something that you are advised not to do. Because if you share that information, it can be used against you in a court of law. That is to my understanding. Now, if I am wrong, somebody correct me. I'm trying to understand this legal process. I don't care about none of this other bullfuckery that's been going on, right? I'm trying to understand what it is that we're looking at. And so, if the government had used anything from Mondi, if they found out that, oh, yeah, Kel's got to trust the Mondi, let's use Mondi, we're going to offer him something, and then we want him to try to go in and see what he can get from Kel, right? Say if that was the case, and that did happen, right? The government could make a legal argument, this is just my thinking, the government could make a legal argument that the defendant was willfully providing this information to Mondi for whatever reason he was providing. And not being able to read is not an excuse for you to provide an inmate with your personal stuff to access your personal information. Because there are people that are with your number one, your legal team, if you have an issue reading, should be providing you with someone who, or getting you a resource to get you someone who is a neutral party who would not be potentially at risk of breaching your information and handing it over to somebody in order to try to lessen their own sentence, right? Those type of services, just like people criticize the services that Rashawn Landfair received for being a victim witness, and they talk about this quote unquote lifetime Section 8 and all of this stuff. This is stuff that the prosecution is within their right to provide a victim witness, to provide a witness in general. There are certain things they are allowed to do. These are not illegal maneuvers that they're doing, right? And so just like she has access as a victim witness to certain resources with the court, he would have access to certain resources. Either it should be through his legal team, or my understanding, if he can't, with the court, that would allow him to have someone who could help him to read these things, translate these things. But he decided to trust an inmate with having access to certain private information of his, which means he could have facilitated the breach of information. The government didn't have to do much of anything. And if Mondi went to the government and said, hey, I got access to Cal's stuff, and this is what I found out from his stuff, and the government decided, okay, well, we want to hear what he got to say, that's not the government sending him in to do anything. So if the government, this is why I believe that the government is being truthful in their statements, and I don't believe that the defense is. Number one, the defense has walked back a lot of the allegations that they have alleged since this motion began, when they was out there talking about cows having these blood clots. We still haven't seen none of the paperwork. We ain't see Bo go submit nothing, trying to get nothing done about the medical part of it. I haven't heard the fans ask nothing else about it. Out of concern for Cal's medical situation, they seem to be fine that nothing else was ever produced from that, right? But then we have this issue of that, you said exactly, and the YouTubers putting that man on channels to speak on what he read is no difference. Exactly. That's what it's no different. It is the same thing. And the point I'm making is that if the government wanted an easy out, if they had used this man in any kind of way, all they have to do is talk about how Kel's allowed this man to have access to his communications. And the reason that we know that Kel's allowed this man to have access to his communications is because this man has been across public platforms stating this. He's been saying that R. Kelly trusted him, that he had access to all his information, that he was giving R. Kelly advice about different people who were in communication with R. Kelly. And so if R. Kelly trusted this man to have access to his information, and this man decided that he was going to take those communications and try to come up with some type of agreement for his own situation is a result of what counts allow him to have access to. The government would be able to find a way, I'm sure, to legally respond in a way that would be able to expose how they use Mondi. The government isn't doing any of that. The government is saying, we never told this man to do anything. This man never brought us anything. The storyline doesn't even fall in line with what is suggested. What is being suggested? That his communications were taken and it was supposedly attorney-client privilege information, but somehow then it was given to the girlfriends, and this is what made them flip. And this is when we get all of these other out of control, wild ass allegations that have come down the line. But I am just wanting to know, if the government has some kind of way used Mondi in order to do exactly what he said, right? Is the fact that it's been stated that Cows gave Mondi access to personal information that would give him access to probably all of his communications? Because who do you believe? In this type of scenario, who do you believe? You have two individuals who have been now, at least one of them convicted of some serious crimes. You got one that is being accused of some serious crimes. I'm not sure whether he's been, because at one point I know Mondi was taking a guilty plea or something. I don't know all of what's going on. I know some things going on, but I don't know all of what's going on with that right now. And so you have two people who are more likely to lie about a thing like this. But what is being confirmed on these public platforms by proxy of others and by the person who is now offering up the affidavit, the unsworn affidavit, is that the defendant trusted this person to have access to his communications. So with that being said, if this person accessed the communications that he was given the ability to access by trying to help this individual to translate because he had difficulty reading, and then the government found that out, and then they had a conversation, and then they decided to utilize whatever it was that Mondi had access to, who bears the responsibility for that? Who's responsible for that? Is it the government responsible because they sent Mondi in as their agent to do it? Or is it the defendant who allowed Mondi to have access to his personal communications, which could have also included his attorney-client privilege information? That is my question. That is the question that I have right now. Knowing that this motion is trying to deal with a structural error, not dealing with none of the allegations that the original motion that he filed that had all of that stuff about the Aryan Nation and about Azriel and Rashona meeting Larry in California, and all of that has been wiped out. At least this is to my understanding. All of that is being wiped out for now. And the thing that is being focused on is Mondi and what he did and who he was acting on the behalf of. The government is vehemently denying through their brief that they did not ask this man to get anything. They did not use this man for anything, and they did not use any information that this man is claiming to have abstracted out of that breach that he's claiming that he did in order for them to put on their case. And so now it is the burden of the defense to prove that that did happen. But if the government had done any of those things, there is another route they could have taken to make a legal argument to justify what they did. And they did it. And this is what is making me believe the government's brief. Now, I'll let y'all know I listened to Lady D, right? I listened to Angie this morning from her last night. I think, like I said, early this morning live, because I remember her saying I remember her saying that Bo Brinley put the motion in Chicago time. So I guess it was like 1 o'clock my time. It would have been 1 o'clock my time. So I was asleep by then. So this morning when I got up, like I said, I saw this, she read it. I saw that Prima Donna had posted that Bo sent it in. So that's when I posted and said, Bo done got the motion in. I mean, the briefing. So then after that, I went to go see if Angie said anything. Angie went and she did a live. So I listened to her live. So then I went to go listen to Lady D's live. Let me tell y'all something, y'all. Lady D is not impressed by this. She is not impressed. Now, Angie, like I said, I think she was impressed with the language. She was impressed with the angle. And that is to be respected. It's an art. It's an art to the law, right? And so sometimes you respect how somebody comes towards a issue, right? Like I was saying, I respect how Shapiro in the Diddy trial and the appeal, right? Even though I think it's gonna fail, I still respect it because I think it was a clever angle, right? But Lady D don't like nothing about this brief that was entered by Bo Brinley. You know, she always is going to complain about the grammatical errors in the documents. So she was complaining about that. But more importantly, she definitely did not like the way that it ended. And she didn't like anything about the argument at all. So there you have two opinions. Now, one thing that Angie did say was that, okay, it's persuasive. What he wrote is persuasive. But when you submit something like this, like I said previously, you want to provide the judge with everything possible in order for you to be able to get your request approved, because you don't know if the judge is going to allow you to argue this in front of him again. And so you want to submit all the possible things in order for you to get an approval. And I think she may have said something about maybe he did submit something, but we just didn't see it. I don't know. Only thing we hear mentioned by the prosecution is that unsworn affidavit. And the prosecution is suggesting that the unsworn affidavit does not support any of the things that the defense is alleging that would warrant a new case. So that's all the information. We don't have any response to what the defense has to say about that unsworn affidavit. And I'm really shocked about that, especially since it was mentioned by the government and they waited to file their motion until after the government's motion was submitted. I would think that they would have spoke to the fact that in that unsworn affidavit, what is the composition of that? What is the language of that unsworn affidavit that you suggest does point to the prosecution? But they did not say anything. The prosecution is clear, though, that they did not get Mondi to do anything, that there is no evidence that they used anything that Mondi claims that he got out of him stealing that information. And so this should be denied. It's that clear cut. That's why it's not fancy. And it's not fancy because it's clear cut. The government saying we didn't do it. And they don't have any proof that we did do it. And since they don't have any proof that we did do it, then you should deny this request. And that's the end of what the government had to say. So you guys, I just wanted to come and talk to you guys about that really quick, because I'm interested to see if I get any kind of feedback from it, so that can kind of like fill up my afternoon, because I know when I come back from having this anesthesia, I know I'm gonna have to lay down and rest, and I'm gonna be just watching something if nobody responds. But if people respond, then I can come back and I can talk to you guys and we can try to flesh this out some more. But I'm really interested in talking to people on all sides to see what do they think about what I'm saying, and in an honest way. Not in this way that this conversation has been going, because this conversation has been going with a lot of empty conjecture and lies in it. It's just a reality. I'm interested to see what people have to say, knowing that Mondi has gone on these public platforms, that he has contested to the fact that, that he's confirmed that he was trusted by the defendant. There are other people who are alleging by proxy of the defendant that he was trusted by the defendant. And now it is being alleged that he was actually an agent for the government and he was acting on behalf of the government, and that somehow because of that, this caused some level of distrust where the defendant could not participate in his own defense, which created a destructural error. This is how I'm interpreting it. Now, this becomes my question. If Mondi did not reveal this information until after the case was over, how did that interfere with his defense strategy? How did that interfere with him participating in his own defense? And that's why I'm saying I'm somewhat lost at what was attempted with this filing, because I could see if they were trying to connect the incident with the BOP to why he would have not trusted anyone, and then therefore wanted to stop all communications even with his legal team. And that interfered with the attorney-client privilege relationship that then they are saying now should cause a new trial. But it seems like they're trying to use Mondi and not the interference from the BOP is the thing that made him not want to participate in his own legal defense. And that's something I'm confused about too. So if I'm getting that wrong, if somebody can clear that up, please let me know that too. But it seems like they're using Mondi. And the reason that I gotta say that is because if he had an issue trusting the BOP, then when he went back to Chicago, he shouldn't have trusted anyone. The behavior should have been consistent with his lack of trust for anyone. He should have been suspect of anyone who would have come by his way. And he therefore wouldn't have given anyone access to any of his personal communications, whether it was personal on a intimate level or personal based on his information and his attorney-client privilege information. No one should have had access to it. He should have made certain requests that he shouldn't have wanted anything to come to his cell. Like I said, I've seen cases where that has been the case. The judge has said that the defendant is not allowed to take things back to their cell because of their high-profile status and how they might cause a problem. So you would think that his behavior would have been different if he would have been greatly impacted by what happened with the breach from the BOP. But it wasn't. And then from what we understand, he didn't find out about Mondi allegedly doing this breach of his information until after the Chicago trial. So then I'm trying to figure out how would that have interfered with his attorney-client relationship during the Chicago trial. That is what I'm trying to come up with a rationale for. That's what I'm trying to understand when I'm looking at Beau Brimley's response. So I just wanted to come to you guys, talk to you guys about that, tell y'all what I was thinking about that, see what you guys think about it. There are a couple of other things that I want to try to look into that I may be able to come back and talk to you guys later after I have this procedure done. If we don't get any responses from my questions, but those are the questions that I have for it right now. So I'm going to grab my daughter right now, head over to the surgical center and get myself checked in, and I will talk to you guys soon. Thank you, Tiz, for coming in and talking to me. Thank you for you hit the nail on the coffin. What Mondi is doing now is I didn't quote you. What about my stomach? Listen, I don't know what's going on with. I sent you a thing to ask you what's going on with your stomach. I gotta go get this kidney stone removed. So I'm grabbing my daughter right now, so that I can head over to the surgical center. But let me know. Respond to me because I put it underneath one of your posts, where you asked me about it. Send me whatever's going on with your stomach, or when I come back this afternoon and I come back on, hopefully you'll be able to jump in and then we can talk about it then. But yeah, I saw that you put that on your community board, but I didn't know. I don't know what you're saying is wrong with it, so I didn't know how to respond. So yeah, so either respond underneath there so I can try to figure it out before I come back live later, or just try to, hopefully you'll be able to jump in the live when I come back, if I'm able to come back today. Because y'all, if I'm sounding delirious and crazy from the anesthesia, I ain't coming back on here to be sounding crazy now, okay? So, but if I'm okay afterwards, then I will jump on and then we can try to problem solve and see what the hell is going on. Because I don't know what you are saying is happening. So I need to know that so I can try to see if I can direct you to the right specialist. Yes, please replay this because I got some questions for you that I left on here. Thank you, Tiz. Thank you for that. Well wishes. I'm going to log off, you guys. I will talk to you guys soon. If I don't talk to you guys for the rest of the day, y'all have a great day. And I will come back and talk to you guys sometime tomorrow. If I have to come back tomorrow, it'll definitely be in the evening because when I wake up tomorrow morning, I got to get some things in. So if I'm not able to come back this evening because of the anesthesia, when tomorrow, more than likely, it'll be in the evening. But I think I'll be good to come back later. So you guys have a good afternoon. Make sure y'all eat some lunch. Make sure you eat some lunch. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.